Okay, everybody, I hope you can hear me and see me. So, sorry about this. I don't know why that's happening, but there we are. Excellent. Okay, somebody says I'm there. That's very good news. All right. Sorry about the delay. There was something with Zoom. They didn't recognize the streaming code. So that's an unusual first, but anyway, there we are. So thank you everybody for being here, and thanks for all of your comments and your details in the chat. I'll have a look shortly. I just wanted to say a few things about the eclipse that's coming up, so that we have just a grasp of what it is we're all facing. And I'm going to share my screen to show you that. There we go. All righty, we'll just take the eclipse itself. So welcome to everybody. And so I have asked for your details in the chat. So if you are uncomfortable giving me those details, just don't do it. It's optional. But that means I won't be doing your reading either. So if you want to have your chart read, I need those personal details. There's no other way to do it. This isn't tarot, it's astrology, so I can't make stuff up on the fly. It's all based on your chart, and that's not to diss tarot in any way. I don't have any quarrels with tarot. It's just that astrology is very different. Right. So just a reminder that this is a seeding point in time, that it's not like everything is going to change tomorrow morning when you wake up. But that the eclipse itself is packed with new energy, so many new cycles within them. And if you want to learn more about those cycles, I'll let you go to the eclipse video that I've already done, which was about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, probably. So you'll find also sign by sign details there as well. So I won't spend too much time on this, but I did want to say that it's very typical in the Indian tradition, which is the one that I have been following for over 30 plus years. And also in lots of indigenous traditions like Navajo and so on, they do recommend that you avoid looking at eclipses. I do think that there is some merit to actually watching an eclipse. It's an awe-inspiring event, but definitely think about that, because if you are actually calm and alone, you'll be able to integrate things that come from your own personal awareness and your own personal desires and wishes, rather than being in a crowd of people where there's always going to be somebody pulling your attention outwards, and you'll be in a mixed bag, let's say, of people. And it won't necessarily be an opportunity for you to go deeper within, which is really what eclipses have always been used for. So meditation and calm reflection and so on. It's also not recommended to start anything new, and not even to bother with, things like intentions. You can absolutely work with intentions around new moons, but eclipses are wobbly energy. Things don't usually pan out the way you thought that they might. And so it's a good idea to just let things sit for a while. And anyway, in terms of taking action on anything that you might want to accomplish or start, you would want to wait until you actually see the sliver of the crescent moon in the sky before you actually do something. That's the tradition that I find it's good advice, because also, especially with this particular week, the energy is constantly shifting. The energy is quite unstable. I'm going to just put this onto current transits so that we can just watch how things are progressing hour by hour. I just want to point out that one of the reasons I thought it was lovely to meet at this time is that Venus is actually conjoining the moon right now as we're connecting together, for those of you live. And that's a really harmonious energy. It's a really lovely way to sort of start this week and have this sense of connection and a sense of auspiciousness. Now, Venus is not in superb dignity, neither is the moon in Aries, but you know what? We'll take it, because it's actually the combination of those planets is extremely harmonious in an otherwise quite chaotic energy. And that chaos continues all the way through the week. So as we go forward, you see how the ascendant keeps changing as we go forward. As we go into Monday and into the eclipse, we start to see how the eclipse energy starts to break up over the days. Now we're on the 9th, and we're getting closer from the 9th to the 10th to the Saturn and Mars conjunction. So by the 10th and the 11th, the Saturn-Mars conjunction will be the strongest. And that continues to be something really important because we have this rulership of Mars, of this whole eclipse. And so as the moon moves into Taurus, Saturn and Mars become stronger in their conjunction. And so that's another new cycle. So we're just 2 days away from the eclipse. The eclipse is Monday. And then on Wednesday, we've got Saturn and Mars, basically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in this really interesting tight conjunction that comes every 2 years, but it's the first time in Pisces for a very long time. So we're looking at something that's quite, again, a new dynamic cycle that's a relatively long term. The eclipse cycle itself can be anywhere from 6 months, some say even up to the years per minute of duration. Now, that depends on the country that you're in, because the peak duration is in Mexico. So if you're from Mexico, then welcome, and that's you're going to get that 4 minute plus eclipse, and then it starts to get a little bit less as you go across the states. So it's 3 minutes and some seconds as you work your way through the United States. So you can, and at the very least, we can look at 6 months to 3 years, perhaps even 4 years of an effect. So we're only beginning something here. So don't get too freaked out. Don't allow the hype. There's a lot of hype around eclipses anyway. And then there's a lot of hype around this particular one because our situation globally is so unstable, and we're in a dynamic of Aries and Libra, which is all about incidents of relationships and war and so on. So I just wanted to point that out to you. New cycles beginning throughout the month of April in an extremely dynamic way. I will come back and do something similar to this for the Jupiter and Uranus conjunction. I'll do a video about that, and then I'll do a live to do some readings about that as well, because that's also really nice, and that will freshen up the energy a little bit. And then by the time we actually have the new moon in Taurus, that will be towards the end of April, that will be a whole new cycle. So in fact, sorry, May, that this cycle is not only, of course, an eclipse and all of the other planetary cycles that are beginning, but of course it's a lunation. And so it's a new lunar cycle of 28 days. And so we're also thinking in terms of the eclipse energy. It doesn't sort of peter out right away afterwards, but really this whole month afterwards. So we have the full moon, for example, where the next full moon, which is on the 23rd of April, will highlight something from this eclipse, but then it's only at the new moon that we're really moving into some very new territory. So hang in there. There is a lot going on. It's very dynamic, and you are up for it. You somehow you're here, so you're up for it. Right, I'm seeing a ton of people online, and thank you so much for being here. I want to just say up front that no doubt some of you will be disappointed. I won't be able to reach all of you to do a chart for all of you. I'll stay for a couple of hours, but I won't be able to do the whole night. So at a certain point, I'm just going to have to draw a line under the readings. So I'm just going to take the first one to join us. I'm going to start with making a new chart for Cindy. And you'll see my process of going through a chart as well. And so we will, of course, continue to talk about the eclipse as we're looking at individual charts. You can still, if you're an astrologer yourself, or if you're learning astrology, this is also a great way of learning, because you'll be able to see different ways of looking at a person's chart. I'm not going to be able to have much back and forth. And so what I'm going to do is, here's a fellow Canadian in Kelowna. What I'm going to do is I will tell you what the astrology says, and I will have a look in the chat to see Whether you think I'm kind of on target or not, I'll just check in, but I won't be able to have a much back and forth with you, I'm afraid. Okay, so here we go for Cindy. And sorry, we'll just pull up the eclipse chart here, come back to the actual chart of the eclipse. There we go. So Cindy's having this eclipse in the 8th house. Mars and Saturn are in the 7th house. So there's quite a lot of issues here around relationships. This will have been brewing for quite some time because the North Node has been on Chiron in the 8th for some time. So there's issues around perhaps secrets, family trauma, potentially, and things that are coming up that are not so easy with regards to, I don't know, maybe it's shared money or intimacy, could be issues of some even emotional nature, because Cindy is a giver. Cindy she's got Jupiter and Venus in the 6th house, so there's a lot of giving there. And we see that the South Node is on the midheaven and Saturn is conjunct the midheaven. And so naturally, but natally, Cindy is somebody who does quite a lot, feels almost an obligation to work hard. And the North Node is asking for more of a sense of nourishment, internal nourishment and inner experience of life based on security. So we also have Neptune at this time coming across the descendant. So I think there must be something going on here with Mars in the 7th, ruling that 8th house. There's something here about relationships that needs to change. There may be some disappointment in relationships that you've been feeling, or a sense of, again, this feeling of overgiving. It's very strong in this chart, giving a lot of yourself. I'm going to read something, or I'll have a look at something from the book that I'm translating, which is just about killing me at this point, but there you go. Yeah, so there's again this sense of needing to be perfect as well, which is really hard. So this would be with that North Node Chiron since February really strongly. And then with the eclipse at 19 going on, 19.5 degrees there, 19-24 degrees in Aries. Still, we're very much in orb. I think this is an opportunity for you to realize that you don't need to put so much, store in what other people expect from you, and that you can actually start to expect more from other people as well. Yeah. So this is. Let's see if there's something here that's. Yeah, this is what I would stay with, this feeling of not over giving of yourself, and sensing that there's something here you're being asked to let go of. Remember, you're going to have a nodal square coming up in February 2025. The nodes, the transiting nodal axis is going to be squaring your South Node, midheaven, and Saturn. That's a significant change, and that's all happening on your descendants, since you have them squaring the midheaven and Immortality axis as well. So when nodes square and then Saturn is involved, these are major life changes. So I'm just going to see if Cindy's giving me any indication here. So yeah, you mentioned something about the chart calculations, Cindy. There's something there that it's always a little bit off. It's never entirely accurate. But it's within a degree, it's really useful. So don't worry so much about that. I don't know, Cindy, if anything that I've said so far is really helpful for you, or if it speaks to you. I really do think this eclipse is telling you to go towards a sense of connection, intimacy, but on your terms. Maybe something that will come to you in terms of support from another person. But with Chiron, you had your Chiron return last year, so it's completed now last year and the year before, 2023, 2024 in the beginning, but especially 2023 and even a bit of 2022. So you've been relieved now of your Chiron return, but the node is there still. So there's lots of focus for you right now on your sense of insecurity around your self esteem, or what it is that you feel you deserve. In the family itself, there may have been issues of humiliation, issues of some kind of status that's been lost, or some kind of issue that made you feel insecure, perhaps around your feeling of worthiness. And this can be an opportunity to reclaim that. Venus is also giving you another opportunity as well to feel your connection intimately with somebody. Venus is in opposition to your natal Pluto. That's all this week, basically. Venus opposite Pluto is an opportunity for you to dig into your sense of self, whether that be in an intimate way, or if it can also be something to do with money. Obviously, Venus is always around money. But I'm not seeing anything there from Cindy in the chat. So I hope this has been helpful. I think this is really the big theme for you right now. You've got Jupiter, Uranus in the 9th house, so that's going to give you some really nice boost in terms of a new sense of purpose, in terms of a new sense of what's possible for you. It's a lucky placement, and Jupiter has been trining your sun for quite some time already, for the last couple of months. Trining your Mercury, trining your sun. When you do get that conjunction, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, it actually will be trining your Aries. And so whatever this frustration is around being able to express yourself and show up in a way that doesn't feel like it's somebody else's idea or somebody else's expectation of you, this will be, I think, a real relief. It can be something that really leads you to a whole different dynamic. And then, of course, Jupiter's going into your 10th, so that could be new status as well, or a new role for you in terms of work, whatever you do outside of the home, let's say. So there's quite a lot here that you could work with that Mercury retrograde. I think you've got basically the month of April, that whole month of April you can use, this whole month coming, you can use even up until the middle of May to really reflect on all of these aspects of your life, whether it be marriage or intimacy or your psychological nature, any kind of illness that might be born from unconscious trauma or unconscious patterns in the family. And this can have something to do with sexual healing as well. Pluto is in your 6th house, so there's definitely going to be some aspect of healing and overcoming in the next 20 years. Your focus will be very much on self-help and healing and growth, and your everyday life will transform radically. You've already had a Pluto square Uranus over the last couple of years, so that has already been shaking things up. So yeah, that's probably not coming as a surprise to you. So yeah, Saturn is ruling your natal Venus and Jupiter as well from the 7th with Mars, and then Mars ruling your 8th. So I think there's something here to do with relationship, but as I'm not hearing from you, I'll have to leave it at that and hope that the astrology was helpful. All right, I'm going to just see who's coming up next. I'm just going to take them in sequence, and we'll see how many we can get done. So Satya, hello. I'm going to just put your details up here for the chart. Sorry, hang on just a moment. Satya is born in Washington. Oh yeah, that's another thing for the Americans there. Please make sure that you indicate your month in writing. That's always good practice in astrology, because these mistakes can be quite catastrophic if you flip the day and the month. So the time is 5:54 a.m. in Washington, D.C. All righty. Wait a minute, Washington, D.C. Yes, it is. It's not the state. Okay. All righty, let's see what that gives us. Okay, so Satya, Oh, we have another Virgo arising and with a Virgo sun as well. So let's talk about that need for perfection. Yeah, that's that very big story of the Virgo ascendant, especially when the sun is there. And now we have this eclipse happening in very tight orb of degree of the south node. So you're having your reverse nodal return. You already had that. That would have been December, January for you. What that means is that whatever cycle you began about 9-ish years ago, you're now reassessing, you're questioning that cycle, and you're having a look at things from a different perspective now, from perspective of connection. There may be in your life some perhaps over dependency on other people in terms of the South Node in the eighth. You may have been over dependent even on your parents, for example, or family in general. Um, and that can be now an opportunity for you to recognize that can turn around as well. There's a new cycle here with the North Node showing you how you can be in connection with somebody without having to be dependent on them. That's one of the challenges of that Virgo Pisces axis, especially with the Virgo sun in there as well, is this potential for codependency. Saturn is on on the IC here, opposing the midheaven in this natal chart. And Saturn is trining this eclipse really strongly. Saturn on the IC suggests that there's been a very strict upbringing and a lot of expectation around family and home. So again, this can be an opportunity for you to kind of see yourself differently, break free from this way. It's a very similar kind of vibe from the previous chart, but it's slightly different energy in the sense that there's also this questioning now around how you connect, perhaps in a marriage or in a partnership, or again even with your lineage. Saturn and Mars are conjoining just a couple of days after this eclipse, and they get really close then to your descendant, which means they're opposing your ascendant. A couple of days after that, then they will be opposing your Venus, and Saturn in June will be stationing opposite your Mercury, your natal Mercury. So there's something very dynamic for you this spring that is in the axis of you and others. You're pretty hard on yourself, dear Satya. Satya means truth. It means the sincerity, the absolute truth. Sat is absolute truth, and the absolute truth of life is that we are simply uh, beings in consciousness, and all of the things that the mind overlays with all of this energy of Virgo, the Mercury, especially in its sign of rulership and exaltation, can put a lot of pressure on the mind, and all of that energy of the mind overlay can have you feeling like you're constantly struggling to feel good enough. Just lots of self-criticism. The sun in a Saturn ruled sign in the sixth house, along with Chiron, you put yourself in quite a strong place, where your expectations are almost impossible to achieve. So you're super ambitious. Mars is squaring Pluto, Mars in the 10th, which is helpful. These are great placements. They're very dynamic, in the world, but on a personal level, they can be hard to manage. It can be a source of frustration and pain. Pluto in the first house suggests that there was a need for you to be strong. This can be that there was some either, and I don't mean this personally, this is not about Satya, this is about a baby on the way. There's some disappointment around having a baby, or there's a problem around having a baby at this time. This baby's not desired. And when you feel you're not desired, you end up feeling like you have to do like 10 times more than anybody else just to be accepted. And because of that, you end up with this issue of resentment and low self-esteem. And there's that frustration with the Chiron in the sixth house, feeling like you're more in the energy of servant than being of service, so be careful with that. I'm just going to check the comments to see if there's anything from Satya that's coming up. So, gosh, I don't know how else to connect. Yeah, I'm not sure I'll be able to. There's Cindy saying thank you. So something resonated. That's good. Okay, excellent. Satya, I hope this has been helpful. This is an opportunity for you to reconsider, listen also to the previous reading, because I think Cindy's reading has a lot of resonance with you. You're a different generation. You're slightly older, but a really interesting similarity. And you're in for an opportunity to really change your relationship dynamic. But this has to come from a place of changing your relationship to yourself, and that's very much how I see this eclipse with the North Node in Aries with Chiron on it, and that's in conjunct to your Mercury. In conjuncts are, I do use these minor, so-called minor aspects, which actually count for quite a lot. They do represent things like, adjustment, really uncomfortable, like nagging adjustments. So I think probably nothing that I'm saying here is really out of the blue for you. It's stuff that you're already probably processing and dealing with. It's just that it's going to be a new cycle to deal with this and change the way things are showing up. When an eclipse is trining Saturn, especially as Saturn is so strongly affecting your midheaven axis, it's in a sextile to the midheaven. It supports your personal growth. Satya, this is all right on. Yeah, okay, super. Yeah, so this is a time to support your personal growth in this new direction, and keep questioning. I have this phrase that I give people with a lot of this energy of Virgo or sixth house kind of feeling of inadequacy, feeling of having to always kind of do stuff for other people just to merit your very existence. And we really need to lighten that idea up a lot. It's coming from circumstance. The circumstance was not personal. Your parents, and that's not to say Virgo sixth house means that you weren't wanted, but in this case it combines. And your parents were in a situation where, for whatever reason, it was difficult to have a baby at that time. There also may have been some issue because we've got Mars in the 10th house in Gemini and Mercury in the first house. There may have been some disappointment. Mercury is right next to Venus. There may have been some disappointment in the fact that this was a girl and not a boy. And that can also be the thing that is actually the issue rather than this baby, but the issue is it's the wrong baby. And again, there's nothing you can do. You can't fix that. That's just how you showed up in this moment. And so the main thing is to fix your way of relating to yourself. So coming back to that sixth house thing, there's this sentence, which is, do I need to do this now? And you have to keep asking yourself that sentence. Do I need to do this now? Do I need to do this now? Do I need to do this now? Or no, do I need to do this now? And then do I need to do this now? And so you keep reflecting on this question. What are my motivations here? And observe that you might be continuing or perpetuating this sense of needing to do stuff based on this feeling of inadequacy. You have Jupiter squaring, Pluto rather is coming into square Jupiter and Neptune exactly next year. You're already going to be feeling it now, but next year will be exact. It'll linger until the year after. This is an opportunity for a new, wise way of looking at life. There's, of course, lots more that can be said here, but it's I'm trying to fit in lots and lots of charts. So thank you, Satya, for giving me your details, and we will continue on. Okay, so here we have Lisa, another British Columbian. All righty, so let's go with Lisa. Lisa is from the 1st of April. Happy birthday. And that is 1984, a wee wisp of a thing in Duncan, BC. At what time? 12:35 a.m. in Duncan. Righty-ho, so let's see. We've got Lisa coming up here. Oh, well, finally we've changed house at least. There we go. So we have a Leo rising here. Pluto moving into your 7th house. So that's already a big enough change, as if you hadn't had enough to grapple with. You've got Pluto square and Pluto moving into your seventh house. So this is going, and also squaring your Mercury as well. Yikes. So this is going to be that you will remember this year. You will remember this year. This will be a turning point in your life. And I suspect that part of the turning point here, as this is very strongly affecting your midheaven and moon, particularly, you're a new moon baby anyway. But this turning point is very strongly to do with your sense of why are you here? Why am I here? What am I doing in this lifetime? What is this? What's the story of my life? Now, there can be something that you are engaging with in terms of a teaching role. Your North Node is in a Mercury ruled sign, Gemini, and Mercury is in your 10th. And so you might actually be a teacher, or you might be contemplating teaching. You might be deciding that, or counseling. That's another way that this energy works really well, especially as you have eighth house Venus and good dignity, and you have a lot going on in your ninth house. So the sun is in its, not only in its exaltation in Aries, it's very happy in Aries, but it's also in its place of joy in the ninth house. It's a very fortunate place to have the sun. And so when you, on top of that, are having this added impact of this eclipse, it's just going to be more of what you're already here for. It's not going to be necessarily a different thing. It might be a new expression of it. You have Uranus in your 10th house. So you've been really for 7 years now going on this new journey. Gosh, is it already 8? No, please say it's only 7. Yeah, 6 maybe. No, 6 years, 6 years. Yeah. 6 years, Uranus has been in your 10th house, changing anyway, how you show up in the world, what work you do. And this is something that will also be reflected at the time of the Uranus and Jupiter conjunction. So this is just building on the eclipse for you in terms of your work and purpose and how you show up outside, out when you step outside the door, as it were. You had quite the upbringing, I'd say. That was a real rocky ride growing up. That is not an easy, it's very unsettled energy, potentially some struggles, real struggles in the family, real struggles personally. You are, with that optimism of that ninth house, there's a feeling of freshness and optimism. But the one thing to be careful of is that you've got Eris with the sun and moon, so your parents may have been struggling. Their parents may have been going through some frustrating times. That's in a trine to Uranus, so they may have had some real challenges around the time that you were born, or just before, around the time you were conceived even. And so this can keep showing up in your life where things keep coming up, but it's not necessarily your story. This is not necessarily your thing to deal with. It's that this is what was going on, and you're having to grapple with that. And so here we have this with this new energy, with the eclipse energy, with Chiron. Chiron has already done its work over your sun, over Eris, over your moon and midheaven conjunction. There is something here that you've probably already absorbed. The North Node now keeps going past it's still in conjunction with the midheaven and moon. It's now directly on Eris. So you want to find out what it is that you feel you are frustrated by. That might also be the story of your parents' marriage or relationship, let's say. They may not have been married, but there's some frustration there. And so what makes you feel humiliated or frustrated in terms of your capacity? There may have been some doubt around that. Interestingly, with the ascendant in Leo, very often we get a long curve of growth before the actual Leo positivity and confidence kicks in. It can take a while. So just a moment. I want to make sure if Lisa is. What have I done? Oh, so sorry, Lisa. Yeah, just saw your comment. Well, whoever's got their chart the same day in the afternoon, let me just change that. Let's do this again. All right, I'm just going to edit the time. So sorry. Thank you, Lisa. That's good. Let's do this again. Start over. Right. Okay. This all goes to the 5th house, which is fun. That's a lovely place. We've moved Eris a little bit out of the way as well, which is quite nice, but she's still there. So Eris is on the IC. There's definitely something going on at home that was not easy. between your parents. Something was definitely happening there that was not an easy ride. And we have quite a lot going on in the 12th house. So there was some drama. And again, there may be, even in your case, some feeling of not being desired, not being wanted, or that your parents, again, couldn't handle having a baby. There may have been something there that was very difficult. We've got Chiron opposing Mars. That's not an easy energy to manage. Mars is ruling your sun and moon in your 5th house. And so growing up, probably there was quite a lot of struggle. South Node in the 1st house, there can also be feelings of being so different, not fitting in, and Uranus is there too. So you might have, trouble feeling like you belong, and that might be directly to your family, and it might be also to life in general. So this is where the 5th house then kicks in, where you really want to take over that sense of, how do I express my true self, my own unique way. This is what the Uranus in the 1st house can do beautifully. It can be challenging in terms of adjusting in relationships or showing up for people. We've got Jupiter in poor dignity, or poor dignity is not to qualify the person, it's to say the sign, the planet Jupiter does not feel as comfortable in Capricorn, lots of restriction. And so this does suggest that although the family would have been probably quite upstanding, there were some challenges growing up, perhaps even financial ones. And Jupiter's ruling that 1st house. And so there is something here that is very, very much about, there's maybe some issues also around, a desire to be free. This very strong, this desire to be free, to be doing something different, but it's constrained, it's restricted. And that restriction may come from faraway places, from foreign lands, from foreigners, or from another country. There may have been some story of emigration or immigration in your family that created some disruption in the beginning. Let me know, Lisa, if that's true, because then I can keep going along that and see. So for you, when you have this really fresh new start, you've already had your Chiron return much longer now, in terms of Chiron, not return, but Chiron over your moon and sun and Aries. So Chiron has just recently moved across your IC from the opposition to the MC. So there maybe have been some doubt around what it is that you feel like you'd like to do. Whatever you do, it's meant to be in service to society, working in collaboration or working with groups. And so, so this eclipse is definitely about your sense of how you express yourself, what it is you'd like to maybe do creatively. This is also an education house. And of course, naturally, it's about children as well. But a Mars-ruled house with Mars in the 12th in very strong dignity, it's in its own sign, can show some challenges having children, or there's maybe challenges with children. And so that doesn't mean you can't have children, but it can be that the process requires lots of faffing around and interventions. There may be some things that have frustrated you, but this eclipse can change that. It can be an upcycling. It can be something that allows you to start a fresh cycle, maybe trying to have a baby if that's something you were thinking about. Feeling the doubt and working through it. Yeah, feeling the doubt about your purpose or your sense of work, your social status perhaps as well. But that's also in the house of romance. The 5th house is romance and intimate relationship, like fun relationships, let's say, dating and this kind of thing. And that can also bring about some new people, because we've got Venus moving in there. The thing with the Venus in Aries, she's not super comfortable in Aries because she's very impulsive, very, very impatient. There may be a feeling of great impatience. You've got, a fire sign on the 1st house, and then a fire sign where your sun and moon are as well. So there may be already kind of a lot of impatience in your life anyway. And you've got this really strong Mars in Scorpio, so you're a real go-getter. But it can be that things keep getting frustrated, like almost like behind the scenes, things keep getting blocked or frustrated. And so Venus there in the 5th, it's a new dynamic, but it may be both, all of it, okay. Yeah, so it's a new dynamic, but it may again be frustrated. And if this is about a new job, I don't think you'll really feel or get the sense of it until Venus moves into Taurus. One of the things is, if we look at houses by what are called derived houses, that means that the house that is the 12th from the house that we're looking at, which is Taurus, which is the 6th house of work, Venus is in the 12th from the 6th house, even though from the ascendant is the 5th house. And so Venus takes away something from that workplace. So it's not like a forever thing. It just means that it's not yet ready. This thing is not, it's kind of still churning away. So it's very likely that that's going to take a couple of weeks until Venus moves into Taurus before you really get a sense of what you can do. But that kind of jives with the Mercury retrograde anyway, where you're going to be reflecting on how to use your creativity, how to use your impulses. There may be a sense that you've had to overcome a sense of not liking yourself or not finding yourself appealing or attractive, but you are, I see the part of fortune on your ascendant and the part of spirit right next to it on the other side, and you are your own best asset. So never forget that you are your source of income, your own best asset. You are the thing that you can rely on the most, and that doesn't mean you should isolate yourself, but rather that it means that you should never give up on yourself. Look at the video that I did last week. Some people are feeling very frustrated, and since you've got this Pluto all of this year basically, and last year you've got Pluto in sextile to Mars, lots of desire, lots of dynamism. Pluto is also squaring Pluto, so you're in a big phase of change. So be bold and be glad you're different. Show up differently, unapologetically. And also with all of this energy here in the 12th, challenges from ancestors, heal that stuff, and that will help to liberate you as well. All right, Lisa, I'm going to go and see for the next person then who we can find. I see so many of you. Thank you for showing up, everybody. This is really lovely. I know I'm going to disappoint some of you. I'm just going to take these as they come. So we've got Maria, breakfast for dinner. Maria, and let's double check that I get time right. So Maria is 21st of January 74 in New York at 8:25 a.m. So 21st of January 1974 at 8:25 a.m. Oh, hi, Maria. Okay, I don't know which Maria. I do actually have quite a lot of Marias, but it'll be lovely to see. Maybe I'll recognize your chart when I see it. And 25, all right, in New York. Righty, and there we go. And Maria, even if I did see you before, your chart has blown to the winds of the cloud. It's just gone for some reason when I migrated my computer. Oh yes. Oh, look at this. Look at that. So here we have quite a phenomenal shift now for the eclipse. It's happening in the 3rd house of communication. It's part of the Chiron return. This is the tail end of the Chiron return. Now, Maria, you're done. You're finished with that, moving on. And so this has something to do with a new way of being in terms of relationships around you in your neighborhood or with siblings. Maybe something to do with communication. If you're a business person, I'm afraid I really don't remember what we looked at when we did, but if you do work in business, which over time would be very good for you. You're very strict about things, but it can work very well for you with the 5th house South Node and Saturn. You can do really well with business. I think you have some really good substance, let's say, with your ruler Saturn in the 2nd house for the next couple of years. You've got some real substance to make some money there. If you want to launch a new website or a business, don't do it now. Try not to do it during these unsettled times, because it builds in this unsettled quality into whatever you start. Sometimes you can't avoid it, so just jump in, but it's definitely a good idea to just let things settle a little bit and then move into the energy that's as it's getting better, let's say a week after the eclipse, so like from 17, 18, 19, basically when Jupiter and Uranus conjunct, and even you wait until then, because that energy will also give you a sense of something fresh and new that's finally uplifting and that feels perhaps optimistic and insightful. Uranus is your modern ruler for Aquarius. So that's also very interesting for you, and it's happening. Jupiter is already in a square to your Jupiter, and so that's going to be in a square to your natal Jupiter when it happens. And so just be careful of not to bite off more than you can chew, because Jupiter square Jupiter can be like that. That can be in and of itself an obstacle. You do have Pluto in a square to Uranus still this year. Basically, it's the tail end of that, but it was finishing off last year. And did I say Jupiter? I hope I said Pluto. So Pluto is squaring Uranus. If I had said Jupiter, that's not what I meant. And so you have gone through a couple of really unsettled years anyway. So this third house business is really probably more about trying to find your voice around what it is that you need to do in your work. Let's have a look if it's similar to what you feel. And so it can also be something to do. Hang on, I'm using two different computers, and my one computer just keeps doing strange things. And I never like to blame Mercury retrograde, but when things go really bad, I will definitely blame Mercury retrograde. So let's see, have I got any feedback here from Maria? Breakfast for dinner. So, okay, so far, so no noise. So it's either it's not relevant or it's not at least problematic. So we have with this this eclipse going on in the third house, there's a lot that you can do around upgrading your goals and retraining. So Aries, anyway, so all of you, anybody here, wherever Aries is for you, you can reflect on the goals that are relevant to that house. So Aries is all about goals. It's all about what can I do? What's the next thing that I can do? And Aries thrives on a goal. It's like you know when you play sports, you want to score a goal. That's Aries. This is that energy. And the third house is about skills. It's very much connected to what you know how to do and how you do it. And you might need to upgrade skills. You might be becoming aware that you might need to train up a little bit. But this also, it can have something to do with how you communicate things, and you're realizing that there's a new way that you can either, whether that be a blog or a YouTube channel or some kind of website or some other type of thing, or a business that leads you through some commercial enterprise, this would be an opportunity for you to evaluate how that's all showing up. And since you've just gone through your Chiron return, reflect on any insecurities that you had as a teenager. Reflect on any insecurities that you had around what you were able to do. You may have been put down in your childhood. Maybe there were times where you felt like you were told that you weren't up to snuff, that you weren't able to do things. As well as other people. And so look for ways that you can, free yourself up, let's say, to experiment with new skills, new talents, and so on. Right, sounds right. And so Saturn, Mars in your second house, new financial goals, perhaps also new responsibilities around family. You do have Saturn in the fifth, maybe it's around children. And Saturn is your ruler. It's very important. So also recognizing Saturn in the fifth can be a sense of not being able to connect with your sense of purpose or your sense of what thrills you, what your passion is. And where we have all of this energy now in the third house, it's a good opportunity to find a sense of willpower and just do it. Don't wait, and feel the fear and do it anyway, as they say. So we'll leave it at that. And I will take on the next one. So, gosh, welcome everybody. Lovely to see you all here. I won't even have time to say hi to everybody. I may have, speaking of Jupiter square Jupiter, I may have bitten off too much. So let's see, where am I with, gosh, wow. I think I'm going to disappoint more than a few of you here. Let's see, I'm just going to have to start taking people at random. So I'm really sorry for those of you who may have been here a little bit earlier. I'm going to take Nicole, and it looks like Nicole Margot. And we'll start with that one. And that is for the 14th of May. At 9:21 p.m. Make sure I get that right. And that is Santa Clara. Okay. Right. So this gives us, now we have another Sag rising. What's going on here with all these fire signs? My God, of course, that's natural when you have an eclipse in a fire sign. So another fifth house eclipse here. And this one is building up to the Venus and Mars conjunction. So Mercury has been tickling you there. So lots that you've been reflecting on in terms of your relationship energy, for sure. That's kind of an obvious statement, but it looks like this is tied into how you might want to be generating, I don't know, perhaps a desire for a new family or a new way of working. You've got Jupiter and Uranus. Uranus this year will get up to your sun. In fact, it did last year as well. Uranus got to your sun, and now this year it gets up to 27 degrees and it comes back and it retrogrades, stations direct rather, retrogrades back to your sun, stations direct at 23 degrees. So you're going to have career change or some kind of sense of goal or purpose that feels new and different. And that's also connecting to a trine with your midheaven. So guaranteed that this is no longer going to be what you do now. Something is changing here in a really big way. Uranus across the sun really dramatically changes how we see ourselves in the world. And especially when it's in this trine, a trine to the midheaven especially. So we're looking at something that's definitely going to be a before and after moment for you here. I'm not seeing so far any comments. I'm going to have to stop. I'm just going to say readings are full because otherwise I'm just going to keep getting more disappointed people here. So readings are full. We'll have to do it again another time. Right. So this is a big opportunity for you to find your creative spark and pull it into the work that you do. And find this new role in your everyday life, in your work. You've had your Uranus opposition. That was very strong in 2022. That was like big time. In 2022, summer, July, August, that would have been a game changer for you already. So this is a process that you're in, and this is continuing this redefinition of yourself. You have Saturn on the South Node, so you're reflecting again. There's a lot here about a change in terms of what you need to feel secure. So maybe this makes you feel insecure. This need to find a new job or the desire to change the work that you're doing makes you feel insecure. Saturn is on the North Node in the 10th, so you have lived your life quite a lot by other people's expectations of you. High expectations, I should think. A lot of family or social sense of obligation or expectations that you've been living by. And with Saturn on the South Node, it's an opportunity for you to reframe what you think you need to feel safe and secure financially or emotionally as well in your family, maybe restructuring what home means for you, what your home and family means for you. I'm not seeing any. Okay, I'm not seeing any comments from Nicole, but I do think this is very much what that is. And I'm going to have to keep it short. The Mercury retrograde is all about your Mars and Venus conjunction. And if that's not about either children or relationships for you, then that will be about how you engage in an entrepreneurial way in terms of the work that you do. And so this Mercury retrograde through April, it's your opportunity to reflect on your business strategy or your creative strategy, we could say. The South Node is on Pluto, and it has been for 2 months, basically. Well, since February, so even longer. So that's also a big change in terms of your sense of what is important for you, what your dynamic is socially, how you fit in socially, which may have already been some issue for you growing up. Also, how you are in relationship. Of course, Pluto in Libra, that whole generation has challenges in terms of finding their way in relationship. It might require some novelty around how you are in relationship. So that's this new fifth house energy for you there. You're going to have your Venus return in April. You're going to have a Mars return in May. These are big new cycles for you, so make the most of it. You'll have Jupiter, Uranus on your sun to really fire you up. So if you're not sure what you're doing now, wait till May, and I think you'll have some answers. Right, so let's have a look. Right. All right, and I saw the grumpy comment from Living Life to the Fullest, so I will give you a reading. And not to make anybody grumpy. I don't know what the name is, so I'm just going to put living. And we have 2 January 1964 and 03 in the morning, 08. And that's in Cape Town. I love Cape Town, beautiful place. And of course, South Africa. Voila, okay, so here we go. So let's go. Have we seriously got another Sag rising? Oh my goodness. Well, you can listen to the previous. But I'm going to start feeling like a broken record. Right, so so Pluto has been sextiling your ascendant, and it will be also next year. So you're already in a really big process of change. That's a given. And you've had Jupiter squaring your moon and your midheaven as well much of last year. So August, September, July, maybe even July, but August, September for sure. And then again in February and March. And so this Jupiter squaring moon and midheaven will have you having new ambitions around your work because it's connecting to your midheaven from your 6th house. Your sun is in your 2nd house and with the South Node. So there's been a long quest for finding sort of a sense of connection with other people. It's not necessarily been so easy. Your father was a very important figure for you in your lifetime, in your whether by absence or by presence, but certainly a very important figure. I think your parents may not have gotten along terribly well, and so maybe there was some distance there or some challenge in the relationship there. But this can come through a sense of value as well. You mentioned even that you don't feel like you're being seen, and that would be that. And certainly, we have Jupiter squaring the sun, and it's there with Aries, and so there may be again this feeling of frustration, but it's coming also with this potential for expansion of self. Mars, Capricorn, Mars is a very strong Mars. So lots of energy here for money and for this need for security that is both financial, but also based on home and family and connection. And we've got that North Node in Cancer in the 8th, a desire for intimacy that's not easy to find. So this Jupiter is squaring the nodes, and in evolutionary astrology, which is what I kind of started out doing. I used to be a student of Stephen Forrest for a couple of years, and long ago, long time ago. And and Jeffrey Wolf Green. And these are really interesting concepts, but I only just bring them in every now and then. But when Jupiter is squaring the nodes, and since Jupiter is part of this change that you're going through, because the nodes will then come to your Jupiter, you'll have the nodes squaring as well as your natal node squaring Jupiter. This is a real, this is where you have to find yourself this time in life. There's some kind of what Jeffrey Wolf Green called a skipped step. It's the thing that was lacking before, which is a spark of joy and creativity. And Aries is there, meaning that there may be some frustration around that when you were growing up, this feeling of not being seen, not being noticed, not being allowed to show up. There's quite a lot of pressure coming there from the family, from perhaps your mom. There's this, it can also be an emotional pressure as well with the moon in the ninth. There can be this kind of sense that life is always always supposed to be happy. Everything's always supposed to be golden and great. Everything should be great. And I think that may have been an expectation that your parents may have put on you unconsciously, where there can be this real sense of if things are not going great, then I'm angry or something's wrong. I'm frustrated, and so there's this kind of drive to keep yourself moving forward in a way. So that's the thing to work on, is that Jupiter in Aries in the fifth, which is about finding your own pure joy, happy for no reason. That's also where we find the part of fortune. And so this eclipse is not directly affecting those placements, but it is in a square to your Mars, squaring your Mercury. So there's a desire or a need for you to find your way, how you want to express your values, perhaps through the work that you do, through the money that you earn. You're also going to be, that Mars is going to be activated also by the Jupiter Uranus, and also Jupiter Uranus is squaring your Saturn. So whatever happens there is going to be a dynamic push for whatever that feeling of restriction was when you were growing up, something new and different in your everyday life. I prefer to have a back and forth before I go deeper into some of this, because I think some of these are really big stories. But yeah, so I think then you've got this Saturn and Mars conjunction on your Chiron. So this might be an opportunity right now for you to recognize where there may be this wounding around not fitting in, and particularly not fitting in at home, not in the sense of not belonging around home. Right. So good. Yeah, you found your happiness traveling for 3 years, no work and no money, but very happy. But I do think that money matters to you. So let's, again, that moon in the ninth, it can try, and this is, I think, was the injunction from the family, put a pretty face on this, make this look better than it really is. So be careful of that, because this is about finding what you need. Saturn Mars, it's really about being honest with yourself. Saturn in the fourth house is really about a good hard look at what you need to feel secure, what you need to feel emotionally, psychologically grounded and secure. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's great. Traveling is a great source of joy for you with that ascendant in Sagittarius, no doubt, and that impulsive Jupiter as well. But this will always remain something that will bring you a sense of security, this feeling of connection to some source of stability and income. All right, so let's go see if we can find some more. Right, we have a Sin City baby, Ellie. All right, I'm sorry if I'm missing some of you, but I won't be able to do everyone. So 13, so fourth, so yeah, here we go, 20, that's the American way. April, as I mentioned earlier, some people may not have been here yet. It's always really, really helpful for an astrologer to clarify your birth month by spelling it. because very often there are mistakes, and it's just a lot easier than trying to figure out what's the actual. So obviously they're not 20 months of the year, but still, it does make a big difference to avoid any confusion. And you're from Vegas, and that is Nevada. So here we go. Let's have a look at Ellie. Oh, thank God, it's a different, well, it's still fire sign. Ninth house. So here we have another ninth house, Leo rising. And Pluto, of course, in the seventh house is going to already dramatically shift things, especially as it's squaring your sun in the 10th house. So you're already in for a big change. That might be through business partnerships or from some kind of life partner. This is early days for you. You're a wee baby, I'd say. What is it? Am I seeing this correctly? From 2001? So you're as old as my son. So that is this is going to be a big change. So this could be the moment where you start to realize what you want to do. This might be when you settle into a relationship. Or it can be about business partnerships. The seventh house is very much a business house. You have Neptune there. So be careful about being taken advantage of or of taking in strays. With Neptune in the seventh house, you can be taking in people you might feel sorry for, or people who are not necessarily entirely above board. As Black Moon Lilith is there, there may be a few lessons in there for you. You're soon by so October, I think it is, September, October, you're going to have the nodal axis squared. Your natal nodal axis will be squared by this nodal axis. And so while this eclipse is on your Aries, it's not really a really personal placement. It can show up as a feeling of frustration around how it is you set how you feel about what you're capable of, what goals you want to set, or how you want to show up in the world in terms of your purpose. You've got Neptune on the moon, so another indication that you need to be careful if you're getting into anything to do with money, with other people, or relationships. It can be very romantic, and that's lovely, but it's squaring your Chiron and squaring Mars as well. So this is sextiling Saturn, which I see as a saving grace, because that will bring more groundedness and stability, but there can be a tendency to not really see what's ahead of you. So pinch yourself every now and then, check if things are what they seem. You may not be very clear emotionally around a relationship, so it might be like, I don't know, am I in, am I out? So that's okay. Let that be a little bit wavering and a little bit wobbly for now, because things are changing quite dramatically. But certainly it looks like there's quite a new sense of purpose and a new aim. You've just had your Venus return that you get it kind of once a year, is almost like once every 9-ish months. So that's not extremely rare, but it's connected to this eclipse. So this eclipse is not a really specifically targeting your personal planets. But it certainly will have an impact on you, definitely will. But it's that the nodal square, that when the nodes are squaring the nodes, that's when things are going to be really changing for you. So that's later this year. So you can find the autumn is going to bring you quite a lot of opportunities and change. And that's going to be with relationship to your work and how you engage, and also potentially even a desire to move, because the ninth house also is foreign lands. You might decide you want to move far away. So it might be far away from where you live. It's not necessarily out of the country, because the US is often big enough that people can go to another state and it feels like a completely different kettle of fish. So I'm not seeing any feedback, but I'll leave it at that. I think you're in for a period of growth and change, and especially so when Jupiter moves into the 11th house and you have your Jupiter return, which you're going to have later this year. And so that you'll have also late in the summer. So that'll be very pleasant. So you're definitely in for a very interesting time. When Jupiter goes into the 11th house, it can feel really expansive and really fun. You'll be meeting new people and having a new vision for your future. So catch up on all the dreams and the ideas that you have for now, take note of them all, try and act on whatever you can at this time, but keep really flexible, keep open, because when Jupiter goes into the 11th, then things will change again. Things will expand in a whole new way. Right, so let's have a look here. I'm going to try and get people from a different place. We've got a different, there we go. We've got a June baby, Peace Panther. I'm just going to put Peace because I don't have a name there. So that is from the 11th of June. And that's at 16:20 in Pittsburgh. Right. Pittsburgh, according to my software, is not in Pennsylvania. Can you believe it? Okay, I always have to go in and say precisely which one. There we go, Lancaster. There we are. And okay, so we have a 6th house. So this is going to be, and it is your Chiron return. This is the year where you'll feel your first Chiron return. Next year, you'll continue that journey. So this is really significant. There's something here, perhaps related to your health, or related to your sense of how you might feel obliged to contribute. This can also be something to do with how you might be feeling a little rebellious, or how you may have pushed and pulled in relationships at times where you may have been undoing some of the good that you might have otherwise been able to do by being a bit rebellious, or that could be around work, for example. But this is a really interesting time because all of this is connecting to your Chiron in a powerful way. By the end of the eclipse day, basically within hours, the new moon will be on your Chiron. So it's very, very much connected to your Chiron return. This is what that's about. And it's trining your North Node. It's sextiling your Sun and South Node. So you're something here about your work, the way that you work. Mercury is going to be sextiling your Sun 3 times as it goes through the retrograde. And it's ruling your Sun. So that's important. Mercury is an important planet for you in terms of your Sun. And as it's going through your 6th house, there's a lot of reflection about perhaps also obligations, things that you might need to feel like you've got to sort things out. It could be around contracts as well. But it looks like it can also be related to health. If you have any health issues at all, do take good care with your Mars. Mars is in a fire sign too. Watch out for inflammation. Mars is your ruler, it's your chart ruler, squaring your ascendant, and with Chiron in a fire sign in the 6th house and all of this fire there, watch out for inflammation, watch out for, and that would come from day-to-day habits. That would come from, it's not like your health is inherently bad. It's to say that there may be, you've got your moon in the 5th ruled by Jupiter in Pisces. And so there may be some self-indulgence here. And that self-indulgence can be the cause of any illness. So be careful with that. You've got an opportunity to kind of fix that and to heal, whatever that might be. And it might be psychological. It might be something to do with the way you feel about yourself, maybe a feeling of being obliged, any feelings of being obligated to do more than you're prepared to, or more that you really want to do. That Mars on the midheaven makes you quite ambitious. And so your day-to-day work is, you're full on, I'd say. But it's not necessarily that you want to be, it's a feeling that you have to be. And so there can also be these times where you're kind of on and then you switch off. I'm not seeing any feedback. So if any of this is resonating, do please let me know. I'm not taking any new times, so sorry for anybody who's joining now. I haven't got the time to look at any new charts, but thank you for being here. You have Venus in opposition to Pluto at the time of this eclipse, so this can also very much be about relationship stuff as well. And certainly as you have Venus in good dignity in the 7th house, you really want to connect. You really want to be in relationship. You're going to have your Venus return in May. You've already had Jupiter on Venus now 3 times because Jupiter was there in, say, August, maybe, yeah, certainly August, September, now again, January, February, March, maybe February, March. So there's a lot going on in relationships for you, but that might also be business partnerships. Jupiter has been in a sextile to Jupiter at the same time. So it looks like that might be a really good, comfortable energy for you right now. So please, Panther, I don't know what you mean by I just switched the houses. I don't know. Do you mean you moved? Switched houses? I don't know if that means you moved. Perhaps moving home, that would be a good use of that Pluto going in the fourth as well, but that we want to see as your metaphysical, metaphorical home as well. You're having your Pluto trine in the next couple of years, so your life is going to be changing quite dramatically, but it's coming from you. You're ready for this. Something's stirring you from within in terms of a sense of a new ambition, new drive. On that Jupiter, it might even be around a new belief or a new partner. Jupiter for a woman is a spouse. And since you have Jupiter in the seventh and then the Saturn, Mars on the Jupiter, that could even be something to do with that, keeping in mind that Mars works really well for you. It is your ruler. Right. And you have a day chart, and Mars is at the top of your chart in a day chart. So it can cause you some trouble. Too much of a good thing, I would say, if that's what that is. It might be too much of a good thing. I'll leave it there. And thank you for playing. And you say you have 27 Libra rising. I've got the time that I was given was 1620, if I got that wrong. So that we have a look where it took that from. Can you just put that again in the chat, please? Give me the time of your birth. I thought I took that correctly. So sorry, I will be skipping people, Aaron. I'm so sorry. I won't be able to do everybody. There's just going to be disappointment that I can't stay all night, unfortunately. That's just the way it goes. All right, let's see if I can find Peace Panther here again. I think I need a moderator to help me with this. Yeah, if you can put it back in the chat, I don't know. Yeah, Aaron, I won't be taking any more people. I can't do any more charts. So, right. Well, I'm sorry about that. You have a Libra 420. Yeah. So if you are at 420, then this is the chart you have. It's 0 degrees Scorpio rising. Yeah, so if it's in June, this is software that automatically switches the time. So it makes the adjustment. Eastern Daylight Time means the savings time has kicked in. And so, yeah, disappointed, Aaron. I know life is full of disappointments. I just can't do it all. And so that is the time, that is the ascendant. So that's what it is. I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave it and go to try and see if I can find more charts. But the software always automatically accounts for daylight savings time. Right, we're going to take Amy. So again, I will be disappointing people. Just FYI. There we go. And Amy is from October 10th, and I'm taking that because we've had way too many of the same kinds of charts, and I'm trying to find somebody who might have sort of a different chart. It'd be nice to do something a little different. So we have a Libra coming up here. So 1900, so 7 a.m. 07/29. And that's in Salt Lake City. Right, and that gives us that. Let's double check that. We've got 729, and that is October 10th, 1980. So as far as I can tell, that's correct. Right, so we definitely have a lot of Libra going on here with the Sun on the Ascendant. Saturn loves being in Libra. First house is a little that can be restrictive. There can be some challenges around that. And now Saturn is opposing Venus, or rather, Venus is coming up to oppose Saturn. She just has. And so there may be something that you're grappling with here around your relationship energy. And so, especially as this eclipse is exactly opposing your Sun, and it's also affecting your Pluto, this might also involve your sense of purpose or your career, not just your relationships, but of course, you are, of course, Libra, all about relationships. So because it's in that seventh house, first house axis, so the eclipse in the seventh, but all of your stellium in the first, you're here for it. That's what you are all about. So this eclipse is going to be highlighting something that needs to change in terms of perhaps the way you are in relationships. It's as well, you have Pluto moving into the fifth. And so there's something maybe that you're focusing on around either children or a new love relationship. You've had Jupiter crossing your Chiron. A couple of years ago, you had Uranus on Chiron. So that would have been 2021, 2022. So for those couple of years, 2021, 2022, that would have been some issue around intimacy. Perhaps now you're having your Uranus opposition. And that's all of this year and much of next year as well. So you're in for quite the change. You're in a real period of restructuring, we'll call it. And it may come from a place of marriage or a new relationship that is about, connecting in a new way with somebody. It's in a sextile to your midheaven, or it has been. And Jupiter is sextiling your midheaven right now. I would put that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in an orb of sextile, also of your midheaven. That will be something that maybe either clients or a new relationship or something like that can take on. Hang on, let me get down to here. So not seeing any feedback, but I'm hoping it's resonating so far. Yeah, you see there's a lot going on here that can be something that is showing up in if you work with clients, for example, if this relationship energy is about clients that you work with, or you working as a therapist in some way, then this is a new way of framing your work with clients. And then that Jupiter Uranus will be helpful in terms of how you earn your income. That's the money that you earn from client work, for example. Mars and Saturn are fixing things up in your house of everyday work at the same time. So that can be part of this story. You've got Jupiter hidden away sort of in your 12th house in Virgo. That can actually be super beneficial. It's like this feeling of being safe and protected by sort of a spiritual energy, and it's right with your part of fortune. So your spiritual life, your personal sort of what the French call arrière-boutique, where you go and spend time and hibernate and meditate, this is your salvation always. And it's especially strong this year because Neptune has been opposing Jupiter and it's now opposing your part of fortune. So it also can mean that there can be something from far away places, like working with people and places in faraway places, faraway lands. Money definitely matters to you in terms of feeling secure. You've got a Saturn ruled, I see Saturn in your first house, and then a lot of activity, including Mars ruling your second house in the second house. But money's coming and going because of that Uranus there, so it's not super secure. So if this is something to do with work, really find this sense of confidence and faith in yourself. So Chiron is in Taurus, and often with Chiron in Taurus, there can be a feeling of ambivalence around money. You're not really like, one day it's like, yeah, money's everything. I need to make a lot of money. And the next day it's like, screw it, I don't care. I just want to live by a lake and, have no running water, no electricity. That doesn't really help. And that Chiron is very important for you because that Chiron is squaring your natal nodes. So that Chiron, which I would also describe as healing family trauma, potentially healing family issues or issues around family secrets or intimacy or fear of how to connect or how to share resources. That's a big part of your life story. And that's where a lot of this energy has been with Jupiter and in the last couple of years with Uranus as well. So I think this eclipse is showing you kind of where you need to partner up, perhaps with better quality people, partner up in a way that brings you a new reason for not having to be perhaps too bulletproof, because that can be, believe it or not, part of this tendency with the Pluto on the ascendant and the sun combined, and then the Saturn there in the first house. You take on a lot, you take on all this responsibility, and what can happen is that you don't let anybody in. You have it all sorted. You got it all sorted, and if you do that, then nobody gets a look in, and then it's hard to connect. So this may be this new way that you have to figure out a new way of showing up in relationships. So Amy, true about money and extrinsic motivation. Okay, I'll have to leave it at that, Amy. So thanks for the feedback. Your life has gone through an entire transformation for sure. Good. Painful relationship that ended at the Scorpio eclipse. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, these changes are not necessarily easy on the human level. And even think in terms of Jupiter. Jupiter helps to bring us what we need, what we need to grow, not necessarily what's comfortable. So even Jupiter can bring some things that are like, what? So just you've got that Mars in Scorpio. It gives you an immense amount of courage. But when I see that, it's like, well, she needed it for some reason, and I think that starts from the get-go with your family. That was already part of that story. So. Yeah, so it doesn't end here. It's an ongoing story of personal growth. So definitely, definitely make the most of this eclipse to do some big new way of showing up in your relationships, and also calling in new relationships as well. So we've got another one that I'm catching here. Also a young person is oh look, we've got a Mexican. I want the Mexican because I want you're going to get that eclipse full on if you're there. Maybe you're not still living there, Edith, but I'm going to have a look at Edith's chart. There we go. Edith is from the 4th of December. So yet another Sag. What's with all you Saggies? It's great energy. Welcome to all of the Sag folks. I have a very full 9th house, so I relate very nicely to that. So we have 1:55 p.m. So that's 13:55. And that's in Jalisco. I'm sorry if I'm saying, I guess Jalisco, would that be? I should be doing better with my Spanish by now, but as I've been doing nothing but translating from French, I haven't got time or brain power to learn Spanish. So it's still at a totally crap level. All right, so we have now Edith. I'm hoping this is correct. Let's double, triple check. 4th of December, 1971 at 1:55 p.m. And right, so we have Aries rising with the ascendant at 15 degrees. You are in for a real personal revolution with this eclipse. And then later towards September, your career or your social status is going to be changing. This midheaven can represent social status. But then the North Node will be squaring your midheaven, and then it'll be squaring Venus, and that will be like through the autumn, because it seems to linger at those degrees for some time, September, October, November. So you're having Venus is squaring your natal Venus right now, which actually is quite nice. It's a good sort of enthusiastic thing, and Venus is moving fast, so that won't be really noticeable with all the rest of what's going on here. But she's also in a trine to Neptune, and so that can also have you If you are connecting with new people or in a new way with people, that can feel really, really nice, really special. Venus trining Neptune is a lovely quality of softness and compassion. It can also be a little over optimistic, so just a fair warning. But it's not in a hard aspect, so it can also be very nice. And the Venus is saved by a sextile to your natal Saturn, so I think you still have your eyes wide open. It's opposite Pluto, so that just triggered a very quick opposition to Pluto, which is again something about new energy and relationships. You do have Pluto trining Saturn, so something big is changing this year. Jupiter is being trined by this eclipse too, from the 1st to the 9th house. So not only is your ascendant affected, but your Jupiter trining the ascendant is affected. It's a bit far away for the sun, but certainly Mercury trining Mercury at the time of this eclipse, and then the Mercury stationed retrograde at the trine to your Mercury. So there's definitely something here that is really new. You have new ideas about yourself. You have new ideas about moving out into the world. It is a good opportunity for you this season, let's say this spring, to jump into new things, and especially if they're about making money, because you do have that Jupiter-Uranus connection there in the 2nd house. But just hold off. I'm not sure how many of you were here in the beginning. As I mentioned, that it's a good idea to hold off around decisions for at least a few days around the eclipse, because the energy for the next week is quite unsettled. So lots of strategizing, lots of ideas, but don't necessarily act on them unless you're really sure. And even then be open to things changing. This is cardinal energy. It's very impulsive and very gung-ho, but it can also have you jumping in a bit too early. And I'm just gonna have to repeat, no more readings. And also, this is the square to the nodes from the nodes to your moon is really significant, because it suggests that you might be moving, or that there's a need to either move for work or move because you've met someone and you're connecting and you're needing to move in together, or you're wanting to move in together. And there, at the very least, home is going to feel different based on this eclipse. Yeah, you've got Chiron opposite Uranus as well. So there's some healing around your self-image, perhaps with connection to instability around relationships, where relationships may have been a little unstable for you in your life in the past, and you may have even been quite ambivalent. Let's face it, it's not always about them. There may be some ambivalence around relationships in your life. And this would be an opportunity for you to kind of get clear what it is you need, like what are the conditions of being in a relationship for me. So the South Node was just on that Uranus the last couple of months. So that maybe that wobbliness or the attraction to people who are different may be something you're willing to let go of now. Notice here, so you've got this 15-degree descendant opposing the 15-degree, 15.5-degree ascendant. And we have the part of spirit along with the South Node and the transiting ascendant and the transiting part of fortune all there. So there's something really special going on for you in your personal situation with regards to relationships. It could be that this is the time, if it hasn't been really working for you, this is the time when being in relationship will bring you more benefit than it has in the past, or will be more important to you, more harmonious, more structured, more powerful. You really want to move to a different country. This is the year, I'd say, that you can do that, because the nodes they're going to be squaring your midheaven. It's squaring your moon right now, and that's a big shift. It's trining in, let's say, sort of August, September. That'll be trining your sun. It's a big shift, but it requires your initiative, which won't be hard. You're an Aries rising. It requires your initiative, but that Aries rising is accompanied by the Chiron there, which can have you doubting yourself. So So jump in and do make those changes, because the thing is, this is a year where change is really possible. When things are shifting in this massive way, change is really possible. Your sense of what you're here for, what your ambitions are, will be changing in the next 3 to 4 years with Pluto crossing your North Node. That will be, you'll be like, the future you pictured for yourself is going to be transformed with Pluto crossing your North Node in the 11th house. So potentially related to income as well. But it requires hard work. Pluto is trining Saturn. You're up for it and you're ready for it. You're wanting that. Pluto is trining your natal Pluto and trining Saturn at the same time. You've definitely got the wherewithal to make this change. It will just simply require the elbow grease, but also the confidence in yourself to just show up. And including in relationships, you've got Venus squaring Chiron. So this self-effacing, don't tolerate people who manipulate you or dominate you. That is the end of that game. And certainly by December, January, that's what the South Node will be showing you. We're done with that now. All right, let's move on to another. And oh my God, there's a man. Look at that. Let's take a man. So I do apologize for those of you who've been faithfully waiting. I will try and get some more, but I want to try and create some variety just for the sake of my own enthusiasm, but also for the people watching, because it's more interesting to have something a little different to see each time. So 24th of November, we've got another Sag. Oh my goodness, here's me thinking we're having variety. And we've got Robert the Sag. Okay, so that's 11:40 a.m. and in San Diego. That's another town that I really like. La Jolla, especially, very nice. So, oopsie. Okay, right, there we go. Robert from California, the Sag. And so we have, I just want to double check, 11:40 San Diego, yes, 24th of November, 1968. Righty ho. Yeah, so you've got, it's interesting. You've got an Aquarius rising, so Saturn is in your second house, so that's your ruler. It does well for you. Saturn really works well for you because it's your ruler. Pluto will be coming up to your moon. Now, this can be a time where, depending on where you are in life, there can be a real feeling of loss or heaviness or frustration emotionally, and that can also represent home. So moon can be around your emotional nature, potentially psychological nature. You do have Pluto in the 8th, so there may have been some issues in the past with family stories, family secrets, family baggage that you may have had to deal with. But you do have currently Pluto in a trine to your natal Jupiter, and soon to be trining your Uranus, and that is very uplifting. It's got a real feeling of can do. So when Pluto gets to the moon, you will already have done this work of the Pluto trining Jupiter, which means that you'll have a sense of optimism. There'll be a greater sense of maybe a sense of what you believe changing, or how you believe in yourself. It looks like your mom may not have been very reliable when you were growing up. And so there may have been a sense of kind of being emotionally kind of abandoned or lost. And this can be something that you heal as we're working through this year and the next couple of years for you. And Pluto is in a sextile to the sun and the midheaven up there in Sag. And so this will also have something to do with your work and how you see yourself at work, and your also work for you is very important with regards to social projects or working out in the wilds, let's say, or it could be political work or social type of work. Freedom is a really big word for you. Freedom. One way that I would say this is, what is the price of my freedom? And here, where we have Neptune on Chiron, there can be an obstacle in the form of a feeling of inadequacy around your capacity to earn or your own self-worth. And so you may, again, sort of, as the saying goes, hand the keys to your own self-confidence to other people at times. And then your work, you might even be working too much, that becomes the way to salvation for you, that your work is like proving your own worthiness. So this eclipse is going to be bang on your Saturn. And Saturn in the third house suggests that there may have been an issue around your childhood or your siblings, perhaps your early childhood. And that can be something that is a focus of attention now. That might be also in terms of responsibility for siblings, because that's being called in now. There will have been some kind of wounding around identity. And now with Chiron there, and all of that energy directed to your, almost within just a few arc minutes of a degree of your Saturn, there's an opportunity now for you to take responsibility for your sense of self and your healing of yourself that is coming through your personal identity or your sense of connection or relationships. You may have been an only child. There may have, I won't go into, there's some things I'd rather go into as a private session, but there's something here that you're able to heal. And it can also have something to do with communication, exchanges of all kinds, connecting with neighbors, connecting with people in your space. If you're working through internet and this kind of work, it's an opportunity also for you to stabilize something, because this new energy, a new cycle on your Saturn in the third house is really good for like stabilizing, whether it be a commercial enterprise or a website or something like that can bring in some money. And that's helped by your ruler being in the second house. It's through hard work you can actually earn some money with that new cycle of Mars Saturn there, a new sense of drive that's coming through that new Saturn Mars cycle in your second house of income, but also of self-confidence or self-esteem. Yeah, there's a lot here. You're really this is going to be quite an influential year. You're going to have your nodal return towards the end of the year. So the autumn is going to show up as your nodal return. It'll linger for a while. That's where you say, okay, what did I do in 2005, 2006, and where am I going from here? So whatever was started for you in 2005, throughout 2005 into early 2006, you're closing that off and you're moving on, and you're going to start something different now. You've got an opportunity that involves something around healing your sense of self-worth. And yeah, I'm going to have to leave it there. I could go on and on, but I would rather hear feedback from you. I'm not seeing anything directly, I think. Have we got Robert in the house? Maybe Robert checked out. Oh, well. All right. Well, anyway, that's Robert. Let's have a look who else we can find here. Let's see if I can find somebody who's not sad. Oh, look at that. We've got voilà, une Belge. Okay, so we're going to take Davin. Davin, is that your name? Yeah, Davin. Okay, here we go, Davin. And that's the 28th of May, 1987. My very good friend is born that day, not 1987, alas, but 28th of May, and at 1414. And that's Rons. Okay. Rons. All right, so let's try this one. Let's make sure that we've got everything correct. Right. 2, Did I say, yeah, 214? Very good. All right. I think that's correct. All right. We've got a lot of eighth house activity, another Virgo rising, just like we had at the beginning. And feeling like you're stuck. Something from your early childhood keeps you stuck. Squaring the ascendant. All right. So this is going to be on your Jupiter. So this is really lovely. You are also headed for your nodal return this year. This will be your second, is that right? Your second nodal return. And so go back to, like I mentioned earlier, similar to the previous person, Peter, where you go back to 2005, 2006, the first few months of 2006, and see what was going on in terms of your either your sense of worth, your self-worth, or connection, some intimate connection in relationship, and see what it is, or perhaps it's about shared income. Jupiter in the eighth is ruling your seventh. So you may be used to relying on other people for support in terms of financial support. Or even emotional support. So one of the challenges, and I have to say this, as it's good that you're still quite young because you want to really get on top of these things. One of the challenges of having a stellium in Gemini in the 10th house is that, and it's including the ruler. So Mercury is up there, the 10th. By the way, this is also being affected indirectly by the eclipse by sextile. So that's quite a harmonious thing. But that is, there's always this feeling of not being sure about your choices. So doubting yourself is, I think, your greatest obstacle. And because there's a self-doubt, then you will always feel like you're sacrificing something by making a choice. And that's not true. It's just a feeling that you have. And I think your parents may have even had this experience around their relationship, that even connecting in this relationship made them feel like they were missing out on other love relationships, one or the other. See if you can connect with your parents and ask them that. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. But that's something to keep in mind, because there's always this feeling that if I make a choice, I'm going to make a sacrifice, I'm going to lose something, but it's not like that. And for Gemini, the Gemini energy works really well to have a couple of things going. So either you have like two-track type of career, or two-track type of relationship, or two-track type of way of working, or you have one career and then you finish that and then you go to another career, or you change job. But don't go flitting around, whether it be in relationships or in career. Don't do it that way, but be open to change. But also at the same time, recognize that you really must commit. It's difficult with Saturn in the especially in Sagittarius, in the fourth house, connected to your IC, opposing the MC, opposing the moon, opposing Chiron. You may have this feeling of being almost like a rebel without a cause at times. So be careful. Make sure that you're aware of why you make the choices that you make. And as you do that, then you recognize, well, there's some harmony, there's some beauty in change. It's not like I'm indecisive, but rather I like variety. That's a different way of looking at it. Not to be able to make the choices. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. That's the way this goes. So it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be a problem. The problem is the way you relate to the choice. Because if you always believe that you're losing something by making a choice, you'll always feel that the choice will, whatever it is, it's always going to be wrong. So there's a very strong flavor of the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. But you really do need to show up in terms of whatever it is that you're doing now being good enough. It's what you're doing now. It's good enough. Pluto is going into your sixth house and changing your everyday life, your work. It's changing. So it's also an opportunity for the next 20 years to really see that the work that you're doing It's not going to be like whatever it has been up until this point. It's going to change anyway. And be careful of nervous anxiety, any issues around nervous health or nervous issues, overwork, overstress, and overthinking things. Into politics for 10 years. And you're an employee in a real estate agency since 12 years. Well, that sounds like a good Gemini combo. Yeah, and that works well because you do have these, 9, 10, 11 is really good for politics. You've got Jupiter in the eighth, so selling things and connecting with people through sales is very good. Yeah, so just don't treat this as a problem, but be curious. Like, what can I do differently? Jupiter is in the eighth house, especially, is very good about understanding the sort of inner wisdom of life, like inner motivations and understanding the sort of mysteries of life. And it's playful. Jupiter in Aries is very playful. And this is this energy where you can, with Chiron there, where you can kind of heal this sense perhaps of with Saturn, on the IC, there may have been a feeling of being oppressed. It's squaring the ascendant, so you may have felt quite heavily judged or restricted by your family growing up, and that lingers, right? It's a thing that we can still feel. So, yeah. So here's your prescription: is have fun, and throughout life, especially now, be creative in terms of what you do. Whatever you do, you have to be connecting with people. That's a given. And you have to be in a sense of serving people. That's also a given because you've got a Virgo rising. Service through teaching, service through providing a service through, guiding, counseling, helping people in some way. And politics is great because then that Mars in the 11th is also used as service to society. It's trining Pluto, so it has a mission. It has a sense of drive and purpose. Right, I'm going to have to leave it at that so we can see if we can pick up some more people here. But yeah, good luck with that. Don't stress about it, Davin. This is your biggest obstacle is mental stress. Your biggest obstacle is worrying that you're doing the wrong thing. And just really what you can do is learn to enjoy your life and be spontaneous. So, Sher B. And there we have another Sag. Is it possible? Exactly conjunct my descendant. Okay, we'll have a look. Sher B. All right, we're going to find Sher here. And that is 26th of November, 1994. Another wee one. In 3:09 a.m. 03. And that is Chicago. Let's see. Voila. Okay, so voila. So we've got, well, yes, indeed. Yeah, so yeah, you could probably do this on your own, Sherry. I think you probably don't even need me to read your chart. With all of this going on here in your seventh house, the message is pretty clear, right? This is very strongly connected to your relationship energy. Yeah, obviously some new way of being in a relationship or a new relationship coming in. But as Chiron is involved on the descendant, it suggests that there's some need for you to understand things differently in terms of how you do relationships. Venus is trining your sun at this time, which is lovely. That's really, really harmonious, very, very supportive kind of energy. And remember, this is like an imprint, right? So the eclipse energy that we have here is the beginning of a cycle with all this energy that's built into the beginning. Mercury is retrograding in a trine to Mars. So there's a doubt around your sense of your goals for the future, and you're reflecting on that. And so keep reflecting as long as necessary. I think if you give it more time in terms of, we're talking weeks, not forever, but give it more time and try and reflect on these things. But right now, the big question is something perhaps that involves a relationship or a business partnership that needs to be thought about in terms of how you want to see your future. Certainly, this is also involving work. You've had your Saturn return, got that out of the way. That's very good. And so this is really the next phase of this is establishing yourself in terms of your day-to-day work, and how you are working in general. You're going to have Saturn in a trine to your midheaven next year, so in 2024, and that's going to be stabilizing. So you may not find that stability this year, but Saturn next year will be supporting your midheaven, supporting by a trine from your place, from your day-to-day workplace energy to your career. And so this eclipse is also squaring your midheaven. So this definitely connects to either a change of relationship status or of work, because the seventh house is business partners as well. As I've mentioned, it's can be about business relationships or starting a business, for example, which would be superb. You've got the moon, which rules your 10th house, involved. Obviously, it's an eclipse, and it's a north node eclipse. So that brings new things in. If the south node were there, I would be more hesitant, but it's something that could go quite well in terms of connecting, in terms of business partnerships, for example. Pluto is in your fifth for 20 years. So there may be some news around children or a new desire for children that wasn't really there before or wasn't really showing up so strongly. It is squaring your Venus. So this is again another message that there's something really big changing around how you do relationships. And then Pluto will sextile your sun mostly next year. You're feeling that now, but next year, 2024, is only the beginning because it's not getting to that extent. But 2025 and a bit of 2026, you'll feel this sextile really strongly to your sun, and that can represent your career as well. So both, I think this is quite significant. It looks like your working life and your social status, meaning am I married, am I not married, all that kind of thing is really being strongly impacted here. The Jupiter-Uranus is opposite Mercury. And so there's something here to do with shared resources as well as part of this story. Very quickly after that, you're going to have Jupiter opposing Jupiter as well, and then Jupiter opposing Pluto, which will be in May. You'll have that in the beginning of May. And so there's some feeling of real possibility, something that feels really open and possible. So if that is about a relationship, then this can work out quite well. But you'll see probably only when Jupiter opposes your sun, that sense of certainty around something changing. Jupiter will be up there. It's in the ninth house for a year until mid-June or June-ish, 2025, which is quite nice. So if you are starting a new relationship or engaging in a serious commitment around relationship or business, this is a good time. So let's have a look here. Cherie, I'm not getting any feedback, so I don't know for sure. All right, but I'm going to see if we can find somebody else here. And again, guys, I'm not taking any more readings because I've got hundreds, what looks like hundreds of people interested, and there's just no time to do them all. So, of course, I apologize, but I'll do a couple more before we end, and I will do it again. I have fun doing this. I've actually been spending the last week just working on my book, and I'm going cross-eyed, so it's good to change things up a little bit. I'm just looking for something a little different so we can see if we can find. Sorry, I'm just trying to find times and dates that are a wee bit different to what we've seen so far. There we go, Mongolia. Let's try that one. Don't know exact time. I'm afraid I'll have to leave it then because then I'd have to do a solar chart and it's much less accurate. So, um, all right. So we have a birthday girl here, and we're going to check. Whoopsie. Nope. Sorry. I don't know. I clicked on it and now it says that I'm supposed to be reporting you. I'm not trying to report you. I just wanted to see you. Okay. So Erin, we had a hard year and with a birthday coming up. So let's have a look because this birthday is the day of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. So that should soften next year for you a wee bit. No guarantees, no refunds if it doesn't happen. That's the way astrology works that way. All right, so we have the 21st of April, 1980 in Minneapolis. Oopsie, and the time I got 2:26. All righty. Let's double check. 21st of April, 1980 at 2:26. I think we're good. Yeah. Yeah, you would have had this south node in December, January. You would have had the south node on your Pluto, which stirs things up quite a lot because that was squaring your moon at the same time. So the nodes squaring the moon, it's a challenge. It's a psychologically challenging. It's challenging around home. It's not easy. Feels like there's emotional tension or there's a feeling of maybe psychological tension. And in your case, the moon is in the sixth house. So you're another giver. The Cancer moon in the sixth house. You have the south node in your first house, north node on Mars. So you are a giver and you doubt your own worth. So this is something that needs to shift here with this eclipse. You have an opportunity with that third house to build up a bit of willpower and some new ambitions, some new goals for yourself. So when you have the sun returning to the place where your sun is, to your solar return on your birthday, you're also going to have that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And that's rather lovely. And then you're going to have from the 26th of May, you're going to have the sun and then Venus and then Jupiter crossing your IC and opposing your MC. Jupiter rules your midheaven. So there can be some really interesting creative impulses, and that will last a year because although Venus will zoom through in a couple of 3 weeks maybe, and the sun zooms through in 4 weeks, you'll have Jupiter in your fifth house that will linger until June 2025. And that's in a trine to your first house, in a trine to your ninth house, bringing a lot of a sense of optimism and good luck. So it looks like there's been a lot with Uranus in the fourth house that it can stir things up at home. And that can also be your inner home, your sense of your inner psychological home, your sense of feeling secure or grounded. Yeah. And of course, Pluto is going into your first house. So you, Erin, are going to be changing a lot. And that brings an opportunity to feel more empowerment. One of the things with Pluto in the ninth to be careful of is to feel that you already know. If you think you already know, do question that assumption because that can have you trapping yourself in a way where you get to this point where you're not open even to your own new ideas because you're blocking yourself. That's a part of the challenge of fixed signs on the angles. Aquarius, and then you've got Taurus in the fourth, and the Leo in the seventh, and then Scorpio in the 10th. The fixity can have you feeling that you're resistant to change, but you can also potentially be stubborn, even in terms of opinions and the way that you think about things. So that includes yourself, how you think about yourself. So be careful with that as well, if that's part of this story. And so this year, you'll only just begin your Uranus opposition. Next year, you'll be, no, no, no. Last year, you began your Uranus opposition. This year, you will be in the thick of it in your Uranus opposition. And you're going to get Uranus really concentrating on the opposition to your natal Uranus. So you are changing dramatically in terms of perhaps also where you live or family and work commitments. So how that might be shaking up, where you feel like it's time to step out, reach out. You've probably changed careers or work situations quite a few times over your lifetime. And so it's okay. And so this could be another opportunity for change. Right. Yeah, I'll have to leave it there just because of time constraints, but I think you're really in for quite an interesting and probably a more constructive feeling new year coming ahead, meaning new birthday year. So I think this is looking certainly a lot more comfortable than last year. And your ruler is in the second house, so you're working hard. There will certainly be obligations around family, I should think, whether it's a generation behind or a generation below you. There's probably going to be stuff that you need to do, and you may feel like nobody's there for you, nobody's showing up. But it's part of your the way that you see yourself in terms of reaching out in a with a sense of a new goal, a new vision for maybe you need also to develop new skills where you realize it's time for something big to change and you need to learn new skills or learn a new way of communicating what you need. That Chiron is always about how we can understand our own growth, what we need. You don't trust your own self-worth. Chiron is squaring the ascendant. Chiron is in Taurus, so you doubt your self-worth. So so that's part of this lifetime package, and it's definitely what you can work on here. Find that courage to move on. Pluto will give it to you. Don't be too dogmatic, and drop. Power struggle is just not worth it. So drop this feeling of inadequacy. Drop this feeling of not being pretty enough or good enough or all those other things. So yeah, okay, Erin, thank you. Pluto has been very heavy. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. All right. So let's see. We'll take a couple more, and then I think I'm going to have to call it a day. I've got to take the dog out. Oh, look at that. We've got Romanian here. Anna Maria. I will take this one. And that is, I'm not even going to begin to pronounce that. So now the thing is, I need you to confirm. I'm trusting that since you're Romanian, you're doing it the European way. So I'm going to say it's the 3rd of September. That's always a bit of a complication, as I mentioned before. Astrologers really appreciate that clarity around the months, because otherwise it can be a real sticky point. 1945, and that is, I'm not even going to try and say the name, in Romania. Alrighty, that looks like it's got it. All right, look at that. We've got a Pisces rising for a change. Look at you. You've just had Mars and Saturn. You've just survived Mars and Saturn going over your ascendant. So Saturn is going to be retrograding back to just over 12 degrees. So you'll be just nudging into that ascendant, but the worst is over in terms of feeling restricted or feeling perhaps a sense of frustration around your own personal goals. Now with Mars and Saturn, they're coming together in your first house in a very exact square to your natal Mars. You're in a cycle of trying to question or sensing what it is that you need to change based on 7 or 8 years ago, with regards to your career, what it is that you need to understand about your ambitions and your drive, your career, or your social status. It might be connected to a marriage or a relationship that's really important to you. With the eclipse now in your second house of money, you've got Venus on the North Node. So there can also be some indication of a new that could represent a new source of income. Jupiter has almost received Mercury. So Mercury is stationed at 27 degrees. So it was close. It was certainly conjunct, but not exact with that Jupiter. So you're definitely thinking a lot about money these days. That also might have to do with your family, issues around support, how you might need to support or feel the need to have more support. You're going to have your nodal return in December and January. So what you're working towards now is really building up to a new cycle, many new cycles, but especially a new cycle that's going to really pick up speed as of the beginning of 2025. So all that you're changing now, all the things that you're understanding now, you'll probably really have a sense that things are taking off as of the beginning of next year. So yeah, the eclipse itself is also in opposition to Mercury, and Mercury itself is almost, sorry, that's an inconjunct, never mind. That's just me getting a little tired. Ignore that. Yeah, so that we certainly will have that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the third house in a trine to your Mercury. And that's quite helpful if it's about, for example, business, if you work for yourself or if you run a business or if you have to do some kind of finance of some kind. This can be great in terms of good fortune, new opportunities for business. Obviously, communication as well, because it's not only Mercury and a really strong dignity in Virgo, sign of its rulership and its exaltation, and it's with Venus, so you're a good talker. Smooths out that Mars there in the 7th on the Sun. But that is also where the third house is affected by that trine. So there's something there, could be about communication or about siblings, perhaps also connecting with siblings. Mercury is also siblings, and it's about communication as well. Could be an older sibling. Right. Yeah, you have Neptune that has just finished like 2 years of opposition to Mercury. So that would have had you feeling a couple of years of doubt around what you know, what you think you know. Neptune was also in a square to Uranus for much of the same time. But that's moving on now. So that lack of clarity, the lack of focus is no longer such an issue. But what Neptune is doing now is it's building all through 2024 and much of 2025. It's going to be in square to Chiron. And then also in 2025, Saturn will also be squaring Chiron. And so this can be some real issues around you in relationship to home. What is home? Or what do I need, in fact, to feel at home or to feel secure? This, again, it can be about a sibling because it's, again, Gemini, Chiron and Gemini. It's also about how you communicate, issues around communication. I'm guessing since you're here, we're speaking English and you're Romanian, you have at the very least good language skills, and perhaps you've had to leave your home. You do have Sag on the midheaven, so you may have had to leave home, in fact, to earn money. Right, so I'm not seeing anything from Anna Maria, but I hope that that's helpful. I'll take one more, I think, and then I'm going to have to call it a day. And all right, Julie has convinced me that I need to see her chart. Sorry again. Oh, wait, no, I have to go above that line where I said we're not taking these things. Sorry, Julie, next time. I had to stop it at a certain point because there were too many people here. Not that I don't love you here, but too many charts to look at. That's what I mean. And here we have Evelyn, and she is a Gemini. So let's have a look. Oh, we did a Gemini, didn't we? Quilt girl. Okay, quilt girl. Yeah, Moon in Virgo. You need help, poor girl. Okay, let's have a look. We don't have a place for you to be born, so I can't do your chart. Oh dear, sorry about that. Sorry, this is not picking favorites. I'm just trying to look for charts that will be a little bit different to the things that we've seen already. I don't want to be seen as picking favorites by taking only Canadians either. So there's no Irish in the house. Where are the Irish? Let's go. So yeah, for this, for me to be able to look at your charts, it would be great if you can really find an accurate time. Let's try and find the accurate time of your birth, or confirm your time if you can. So, okay, let's see. We've got Rochelle. Righty. So we've got Rochelle, who is an Aries, and Rochelle, sorry, oops, and that is April 17th. Yeah, that's it's been nice that you have your birthday just that little bit after the eclipse, so you can breathe a little bit for your solar return. So 1:19 p.m., 13:19. And that is, oh, Rochelle, we don't have a place of birth here. No, people. I need to have a time, a date, and a place. Otherwise, I can't look at your chart. I'm so sorry. So we have Woke One's Revolution, Heather. All right, there we go. And she's got a 19-degree rising as well. So sorry, Rochelle, I'm not able to do your chart because I don't know where you were born. Where did I find Heather? There we go. All right, Heather is 23rd of, oh, hey, that's my son's birthday, 23rd of August, but not 1980. I'm not that old. So 2207 in Wichita. I love saying Wichita. Wichita. I love all these Indian names. Kansas. All right, so I'll just double check that. 2207, exactly. All right, so we have a 19 rising, which seems like the right one. Okay. Yeah, relationships are rather huge in your life, aren't they? Yeah, so you even have Lilith in the seventh, which is going to be opposed by Venus. So it's like I get this feeling you're kind of standing up for yourself. I just get this feeling that you're just going to be like, so done with this. So that's what this last year would have felt like. Certainly since the South Node has crossed your Mars, that would have been in August, probably. August, September, South Node on your Mars. It's like, we're done here. That is no longer what I want. I'm moving on. Maybe that's about a relationship or about how you were in relationship. And then you've had the South Node on Pluto, and that would have been in January. And the South Node on your descendant opposing the Ascendant. So the North Node was on your Ascendant, which is where, of course, the eclipse is right now. But you're looking at the nodes because that usually is a precursor, it's a trigger to something that begins. So you've already had that impulse, that new thing over the Christmas holidays, basically. So that may have been spicy. And so you're really moving in a new direction for yourself. Venus is in a lovely sextile to your moon. And Pluto is next year going to be conjunct your moon. I also mentioned this for somebody else, where the moon, when Pluto conjuncts the moon, there's a real deep sense of readiness for transformation psychologically or emotionally, but it can come with something that feels like I'm having to let go of something. And this, in your case, it's about how you saw your future. The dreams you may have had for the future. So it's a new vision. And with Pluto going into the 11th, it's new friends. It's a clear out. It's like all this is going to change. It's trining your 7th. And It's trining your third house as well of your goals, and then in the 11th house of how you connect with people, who's in your life, who's not. What are your goals? Don't worry if they change a lot, especially as you're an Aries rising, you're probably not worried about that. But this is definitely going to be a game-changing year for you. You're going to see things in a really big, very different way going forward from here. Yeah, you have Chiron conjoining, rather Jupiter conjoining Chiron. And 2 years ago, so 2022, you had Uranus. So Uranus, the North Node, and Mars were on your Chiron. So whatever was going on in the summer of 2022, it's like there's a salve now. There's something being healed here, and that was squaring your nodal axis. So that must have been huge, perhaps around children or around family or around your sense of your values, around how you relate to money or your relationships. I'm not sure if I'm seeing any feedback from Heather yet. I don't see. Oh yeah, here we go. Being called to spiritual astrology work. Yeah, well, this is trining your Neptune, this eclipse as well. It's opposing your Pluto and trining your Neptune. So that's a big change in terms of how you see yourself. You've been afraid to be seen. Yeah. Neptune trining the Ascendant. It can also be that. It can be where you feel like you have to show up in a particular way for people. That may be like what you think people expect of you, but it's not what is necessary of you. It's only you putting that on you, you know? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, toxic relationship. That's what I was trying not to say. Yeah. So that's part of your life lesson here, those kinds of relationships. And this is where you're really you're standing up for yourself now. This is a turning point. You think of this as a turning point. And that self-image issue, that's the Chiron on the Ascendant, like to within 3 arc minutes of a degree. So this is your permission to allow yourself to be different. And that North Node on your Aries as well. So Aries on the Ascendant in the first house, you're feeling something has had you feeling humiliated or feeling less than. And I think it has something to do with your feminine energy or your maybe the way you saw your role as a woman or relationships in general. You tend to be quite a soft person in relationships. But you also bury your anger, you kind of swallow it until you explode, and that's not good. Yeah, so that's where this opportunity for healing is really strong for you. You're going to have Jupiter and Uranus both trining Saturn relatively soon. You won't feel Uranus trining Saturn until next year. Oh no, again this year. Yeah, this year it goes up to 27 degrees. So Uranus trining Saturn is another way of saying you're challenging yourself to change based on how you used to be in the past. You are one of those people who works yourself hard. You work yourself to the bone. You're very self-critical, and you owe yourself a wee bit of self-love now. And this could be also the invitation of this Uranus opposition, your midlife crisis, we could call it, where you realize, you know what, I have value, and I have not been seeing that. That's part of the problem with this Uranus trining the Ascendant. It's not seeing yourself clearly, not showing up clearly, also doubting even what you believe, maybe being a little bit too airy-fairy about what you have faith in. And it would be good to cultivate a clearer sense of what you have faith in going forward. Jupiter will be moving into your third house for over a year. And that's a great opportunity to teach, to show up and learn something in a new way, to expand your horizons in your connections with people, write a book. Jupiter rules your 9th house. Teach a course, do something like that. So yeah, lovely. Yeah, well done. I think this will be the year where you turn the page on these otherwise potentially quite abusive situations, which I suspect your parents were already experiencing around the time that you were born. This was the model that you were given, and this is time to change up change the model. All right, so I'll do one more and then I'm going to have to walk the dog. So let's see. Um, doo -doo -doo. Let's see. I just want to take the ones who've been waiting longer. I'll just go back to the top and see if we can take somebody who I missed from the beginning because I had to skip down. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah. So, did I take? Well, you know what? We had the West Coasters, so we can take somebody from Toronto, can't we? We'll take Dandra. You say your name is D. All right. So we're going to take D. And that will be the last one. So thank you, everybody, for putting all your data in there, but I will have to see you another time. We'll do it again because it's kind of fun. 12, 3. Now, again, I'm hoping, now you're in Toronto, so this could be one of those things that's switchy, switchy. So D, I need you to confirm to me that this is March or is it December? Are you born March or December? Can you please confirm that, D, if you're still here? Um, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, with commenting on people who have a birthday on April 8th, we'll do, yeah, I'll do that. So I just need to see if Dee's still in the house. Has Dee left the building? Has Dee left the building? Okay. Well, I think what I'll do is, yeah, I'll just leave it at that, and I'm just going to, we're just going to look at if you have your birthday on an eclipse, but it applies around the eclipse as well. Okay. And so, let's imagine you have your birthday anywhere from, say, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th of April. You're definitely going to be impacted by this eclipse, depending on what other things you might have. So that's people who have their sun around the eclipse degree of 19 degrees, but let's say anywhere from really 15 or 16 degrees up until 22, 23 degrees easily are going to be affected. And often people have a Mercury not too far away. So you might have Mercury there, you might have Venus there as well. You might have other things, especially if you were born in the 70s. You've also got Chiron in Aries as well. So that will be somehow impacted by this eclipse. And so that is usually with reference to what you see your role in life as. So it's changing. It's a North Node eclipse, so there's something new, and you're seeing yourself coming in with a new vision for yourself. A sense that maybe your career isn't on track or you want to put it in a new direction. And so it can be something to do with, just how you present your career or even a new career path. The sun represents males of all kinds. That can be life partners, it can be fathers, it can be, important men in your life. And so it can also be that there's something new coming in through a male in life or in terms of a boss situation or something like that. But that because it's your sun, and the sun is exalted in Aries, it's very powerful with the North Node there, you have a whole new way of seeing yourself in a way that is a cycle that's going to last for 18 and a half years or more. So this is, the nodes only come around to this part of the chart in terms of this North Node configuration every 18 and a half or so years. So this is a very big, long cycle. It's not just this eclipse cycle, but you can think of it, especially if it's impacting your sun, as a new start in terms of your sense of who am I in my life? What do I do in the world? What's my career? What do I take responsibility for in life, let's say in my job or whatever? And so, yeah, so this is a great opportunity for birthday babies around the eclipse to have a sense of a new direction. Now, because that also implies that you have Chiron on your sun at some point in this configuration. Over the last, let's say, couple of months at the very least, you would have experienced Chiron on your sun or going ahead. So that's also a way of healing your identity. Any insecurities around yourself, any insecurities around, again, the way that you show up in your life. It depends on the house that you'll find it, but it's going to be very personal to you. It's an opportunity for you to set up new goals as well, because the Sun and Aries both represent what you feel your ambition is. What's your drive and your goal? What do you want to achieve in this lifetime? And you don't have to achieve great things. It can be like, you know what, I really just want to get that rec room painted, or I want to have kids and I didn't think I did before. This is how you're changing your vision for yourself, and how you interact in life itself. It's really that solar energy is how you see your life purpose. And with the North Node there, you have a bigger sense of what you could be here for. And with Chiron there, don't let that interrupt the flow of this potential, because Chiron is there designed to show you where you actually are your own worst enemy, where you are the obstacle to expanding yourself. It could also literally represent that you become a healer or a teacher, for example, with the North Node Chiron and the Sun combined, where you decide, you know what, I've had a crap life. I have things I need to share with people. I want to help people overcome what I've overcome. For example, that's a great use of Chiron on the Sun. So this is a wonderful experience to have an eclipse on a birthday like this. It's a powerful eclipse because right after the eclipse, you're going to have Venus coming across your sun as well. If you have your sun around these days, Venus will very quickly, within a week or 2 weeks, she will be coming across your sun. Let's double check what that is. Let's have a look when she's doing that. We'll go day by day and we'll just see. We only just take the transits to see what Venus is up to, that we can see. So by the time Venus comes to the point of the eclipse, oh, by the way, yeah, so Venus is first going to be conjunct the North Node. So this will affect some of you who are born around this time as well. By the time Venus conjuncts the North Node, that will be a week from now. So again, another reference to your sense of your desire nature, or your desires or your preferences or relationship energy, how you are in that, something new. And then just soon after that, we have Mercury backing up for the second time, then going into the conjunction with the North Node. In fact, there was a Mercury Cazimi just meaning Mercury conjoins the Sun just after the eclipse as well. I skipped that one. Let's not skip it because that involves your birthday too. So that's by the 11th. So any of you born around the 11th, you have a Mercury Cazimi. So that's a new cycle of Mercury. That's when Mercury is in the middle of its retrograde cycle. So the Cazimi is like the second meeting with the Sun. Mercury goes all the way back, and then it's going to have the third meeting of the Sun later in May when it sets its new cycle, or is it June maybe? Right, so lots happening. You see, it's one cycle after another in the days after your birthday. So it's like your birthday is extended because of all of this energy that builds up. Then your ruler Mars will also move in and then hit that Chiron, hit the North Node, etc. Mars and the Sun don't meet until much later on in the year, when Mars retrogrades in Leo. Don't forget, and that's in your 11th house of your goals for the future. How you see your future. No, that's not true, because you may not be a Libra rising. If you're Libra rising, otherwise it doesn't work. All right. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate your being here. I love your comments. I'll have to reread them because I didn't have a chance to read all those comments. But it's been lovely sharing this time with you. I'll definitely do it again. We'll do it for the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and we'll take some charts then as well. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take them before, so we don't have to spend time with me creating the charts as well. I just want to try and make it kind of open and fair for everybody, so it's more like just catch as catch can as we're going forward here. Have a wonderful eclipse. Don't stress about all these things. Don't get hyped up by the overhyping of all of these things by astrologers as well as by laymen. And also recognize that this is an opportunity for a big change. I want to say on that note, I don't subscribe to the idea that this is an opportunity for a shift in consciousness. The sun does represent consciousness, but it's an overall sense of our consciousness, our individuated consciousness, what in Indian tradition would be known as the jiva, the sense of the self, this individuated sort of sense of self. But it's not even possible that we have a sense of a collective consciousness that's all of a sudden going to wake up because of an astrological event. It doesn't work that way. We individually wake up, and waking up, by the way, also doesn't mean that you have new ideas. Waking up is not about a new pattern of thought or believing something that somebody else believes, or you're happy that people are waking up because they share your opinions. That's got nothing to do with consciousness arising and waking up. We are always in a state of consciousness. That's our natural state. And so also bring your practice within, bring your understanding, interiorize all of these ideas, wake yourself up, question your own thoughts, question all of these notions that, you believe that you might be spiritual or consciously awake and somehow, everybody else is asleep, but you still have these heavy opinions about anybody who follows Trump, God forbid, or anybody who believes that, I don't know, all the stuff that people hate each other for. That shows that you're nowhere near an awakened consciousness. An awakened consciousness is a very, very different thing to agreeing with what other people in your bubble believe. And so this idea that an astrological event or a comet or any of these things is going to somehow wake everybody up, it just doesn't work like that. It never has. If it did, that would be in ancient spiritual texts. It would all be written down and we wouldn't have to do a thing. It would all just be done for us. That's part of the Santa Claus type relationship with spirituality that's really unhelpful in the New Age. It's waiting for a savior. It's not Christ the savior, but it's like astrology the savior, or the eclipse the savior, or whatever. It's not true. So you still have to do the work. You still have to clear your own mind. You have to purify your own thoughts and purify your heart to be able to fully embrace that consciousness that we already are. It's just that the fog of our opinions and thoughts is blocking it all off. So it's an individual job. You can do it sitting in a crowd, and you can do it in a cave. It doesn't matter, but you have to do the work. Don't wait for everybody else to wake up so that things can change. Because again, that's that passive way of thinking that says something's going to happen to me. And it's not like that. No, we got to pick up, especially with that Aries energy. It really reminds us that we've got to take action. That's Aries. Take action. If your birthday's around now, take action. I probably don't need to tell you that because you're an Aries sun. So good luck for all of you. I really enjoy these interactions. I wish I could hear your voices, but we'll maybe do webinars when my book is done. I'll have more time. It's taking way longer. Translation is an extraordinary job, and I have renewed respect for translators of all kinds from doing this work. So I look forward to seeing you again, and certainly in the next couple of weeks, we'll do something about the Jupiter-Uranus. Have a lovely evening or day, and